let me jump to this story while I do that. This involves Christian pseudo historian David Barton. David Barton, of course, famously a liar. He's a guy who said he had a PhD and it was actually an honorary doctorate from one of those fake Christian schools, so he didn't have anything of value. He's a guy who wrote a book called The Jefferson Lies, uh, purportedly talking about lies about Thomas Jefferson, but it had so much misinformation in it that his Christian publishers are like, we have to pull this book from the shelves because it has too many lies. We're going to keep the Bible up on the shelves, but David Barton's book, that's too much misinformation. So they took it down from the shelves. So that's David Barton for you. And his whole career now is he goes around spreading misinformation about the founding fathers. And he's like, when America was founded, it was Christian. And here's how we know that. And then he'll quote something out of context that a founder supposedly said, and then jump to a completely illogical conclusion about it. So that's kind of what he does now. And I'm going to play you a video from Right Wing Watch in a second here, because this Monday, he called out politicians who cheat and break the rules in order to win elections. Let me repeat that. He called out politicians who cheat in order to win elections. Now, who do you think he was talking about? Could it be the people who recently got arrested for cheating in an election because they're immoral goons? Of course not. Let me play you this clip. Again, this is from Right Wing Watch. It's about 1:30. Have fun listening to this. Oh, boo. As that's playing, I realize you can't hear the audio, can you? That's okay. I will do a David Barton impression. And by impression, I mean I'll just open my mouth and lie to you. Okay, here's what David Barton said. I will show you the transcript here. Um, there we go. Generally, the Democrat Party, because he can't say Democratic, that would be too on point. The Democrat Party is a very secular party. They tend to be very secular, and the more secular you are, the less God fearing you are, which means the less restraints you have on your behavior. So if there is no God, then everything is right now, and everything is right now, and the end does justify the means. The Machiavellian thing that the end justifies the means. Republicans believe in God, Barton claimed, which is why they are not going to break the rules just to win. How do you respond to that? Donald Trump was just arrested for leading a conspiracy to overturn an election, to the point that every juror was like, oh, yeah, he totally did that. And so did these 18 other people along with him. All of that happened because they are sore losers and also Republicans who can't win the popular vote in that state. But David Barton's like, yeah, well, all those godless people, I mean, what's stopping them from cheating? Well, the people who constantly cite God were the ones who cheated. They're called Republicans. They stormed the Capitol to overturn an election. They pressured people to find votes that never existed. They literally get convicted of voting multiple times. Like all those election fraud stories, they always involve Republicans doing this shit. So that's David Barton for you. He just talks as if no one watches actual news, which, to be fair, for his audience is probably true. They listen to him, they filter their news through him, so they probably don't realize how badly Republicans are cheating the system. And this idea that if you're godless, you don't have any moral restraints, that doesn't make any sense either. I have quoted this before because I love it, but my buddy, a sociologist named Phil Zuckerman, he wrote an article years ago for Salon in which he basically said on every single metric of morality, like how do you measure morality? There's a lot of ways to do it, but on basically every single metric, atheists come out ahead no matter what survey you want to use. And look at this paragraph because I love this paragraph. In terms of who supports helping refugees, affordable healthcare for all, accurate sex education, death with dignity, gay rights, trans rights, animal rights. And as to who opposes militarism, government use of torture, the death penalty, corporal punishment, and so on, the correlation remains. The most secular Americans exhibit the most care for the suffering of others, while the most religious exhibit the highest levels of indifference. I love that. And by the way, you could see the highlights in that paragraph because he has links to all the surveys that show all this. But the point is, if you want to live in a society that is moral, however you define morality, if you define it by any of those terms, you can point to any country in the world, any Western country where religion just isn't popular. You look at Scandinavia, you look at some of those European countries, you look at Canada. Like on so many moral issues, they are doing so much better than places like the United States that are overwhelmingly religious. And we're all better off because of it. And by the way, to the claim that David Barton made that, Democrats are secular, like that's not true either. The Democratic Party is not a secular party. I wish they were, you guys. I wish it was a party full of atheists, but the Democrats are not an atheist party. I promise you, they don't reach out to atheists when they're trying to campaign for votes either. Um, just to give you some numbers here, because I looked this up. Of the Democrats who are in Congress right now, 76% are Christian, 12% are Jewish, 4% belong to other religions. That's overwhelmingly everyone in Congress. More than 90% of Democrats in Congress are religious. One dude, Jared Huffman of California in the House, is openly humanist. And then there's Kirsten Sinema, but I don't want to take any credit for her being openly unaffiliated. But Democrats are not godless in Congress. So none of that makes any sense. And Kyle Mantilov, Right Wing Watch, he actually pointed out that David Barton, of all people, should know that Republicans do this sort of shit because check this out. Barton, of course, has a history of projecting his own side's illegality onto Democrats, such as when he proclaimed in 2019 that Christian candidates would never illegally harvest ballots. Shortly after North Carolina had to schedule a new election because the Republican candidate, who Barton had endorsed, had engaged in illegal ballot harvesting. That's David Barton for you. None of that stuff matters because his career is dedicated to spreading lies to an audience of Christians who are even less good at critical thinking than he is. It's infuriating. I think what makes me really mad is there are prominent Republican politicians who parrot what David Barton says. Like, it's not like David Barton's comments only get said in a bubble and nowhere else and only a handful of people hear it. They make their way to Christian nationalist legislation and legislators. And then this stuff gets into the public record. It's extremely frustrating.